Hello everyone. Today up for bid on eBay is a low-tech ISA CompactFlash adapter. I'm actually building a few of these. You can buy them from a kit at low-tech.co.uk. I actually bought the boards from him and then bought the rest of the parts from Mauser Electronics locally here. And got a couple of these built out now, and they seem to be working pretty well, so I was just going to make a quick video to show how they work, and I wanted to talk a little bit about these boards. There's several different IDE 8-bit adapters out there for vintage machines, and IDE by its nature is actually 16-bit, so getting it to work in a 16-bit machine is fairly easy, but an 8-bit machine you actually have to do a little bit of extra circuitry, and this board also has a flash ROM chip on it, or flash RAM chip on it, which stores the code for the BIOS to go ahead and boot the drives up in most old machines. I've run into a few problems with various machines. There's an old Packard Bell computer I have that seems to love this thing, and it works in it just fine. It works fine in my original PC. It's not a PCXT, just the PC. And I also have two very strange old compact machines that probably no one's ever heard of that are actually labeled Xerox, and they have a different motherboard in there. It actually shows up as a Compact Desk Pro, so it's essentially an 8-bit Compact Desk Pro, and those machines seem to like this board just fine as well. Obviously I haven't tested it and everything, and actually the machine I've been primarily testing it in is actually a 16-bit machine, which if you see over here is this old 233 megahertz Pentium machine that I have. This has 16-bit ISA slots in it, but this card actually works just fine in there, and I like using this machine just because it's not real vintage or real old. It's one that I also have 5 1/4 inch and a 3 1/2 inch floppy in it, so I use it to convert a lot of disks and just test hardware and old hard drives and so forth. But right now, as you can see, I actually do have one IDE cable plugged into the motherboard, which is a CD-ROM drive, and I'll go ahead and just unplug that just to illustrate that there's nothing plugged into the onboard IDE controllers. There's two hard drives in here, but both of them aren't plugged into anything either. They're just sitting in here loose. So there you go. So in a minute I'll go ahead and I'll plug this guy in, and I'm also going to just plug this little flashed IDE adapter that I have. It works mostly with compact flash adapters. I remember reading through the board, it says it'll work with any ATA2 compliant drive, but I haven't actually tested it with hard drives. I'm just using it with flash cards. And also on the back of this there's some optional circuitry. As you can see, there's my terrible surface mount soldering, but that chip actually adds what the website refers to as slot 8 compatibility, and that's if you're using a PCXT with an 8-slot, 8-pin or 8-bit ISA slot. It'll actually work in the 8th slot, and I read some weird stuff about that, and I believe this chip and some of the circuitry also drives the LED for the IDE activity light, which is over here. I didn't solder in the power connectors on these because what you can do is actually get a 3 1/2 inch drive power connector and solder it in there and power low power devices, but this device also does the power on the spare pin that's on the IDE controller, and most of these little adapters support power on that pin, so they don't actually need to pull power through their external connector, and this board's no exception to that. It actually powers straight off the port, so you don't have to plug anything additional in, and almost every one of those cards I've seen lately work that way. I'm just selling the board by itself. It'll be pre-programmed and ready to go. By default, this board is set. Let me see if I can get a good focus in here. Oop. Doesn't want to do it. I'm almost there. Well, anyway, it's actually hard-coded to work at port 300 to 31F, and the BIOS address is hard-coded to C800, which is pretty common for most of these controller boards. You can't change it. The board is hard-coded that way. There are some other IDE adapters out there which give you a little bit more configuration, but this one was really designed to keep the part count down and to keep it a simple board. And it's also a very low-profile board, so if there are any machines out there, I know some of the Sinclair like PC200s had half-height ISA slots, so this guy would actually fit in there pretty well. So I'm going to go ahead and stop the video, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to plug this card into here. So I have an IDE drive on there. That's actually just blank right now. I went ahead and deleted the partitions, and I'll go ahead and run through formatting that real quick in DOS. And I'm also going to plug in the IDE light into the case just to show that IDE activity light's working. A lot of people that I've seen building these boards don't put the surface mount components on the back, and that'll prevent those guys from working. So anyway, this board's as compatible as it can be and as good as it can. One other thing I will note as well is that I've had a few issues, and I actually talked to the guy who designed these, and I haven't been able to find a good answer. But a few times I've tried to reprogram the flash chip. It actually uses an open source IDE utility, and I'll show you that here in a minute. But for whatever reason, when you try to reflash these chips, at least on a couple of my machines, it wouldn't work, and it actually rendered the chip unusable. I was able to take it out and put it into a Willem EEPROM programmer that I have and just erase the chip and reprogram it, and it worked fine. But just be aware, if you don't have an EEPROM programmer, there's really going to be only two courses of action. One would be just to buy a new blank chip and stick it in there, or to go and take this chip somewhere and just get it erased and reprogrammed externally. Point is, though, you should really never need to change anything on the BIOS. It's working as it is now, and even if there are updated forms of the BIOS later, it's unlikely there's going to be any problems, because IDE is pretty well known, and that XT IDE project's been around for quite a while. So I'll stop now and plug the card in, and I'll start formatting this guy in DOS. I'm just going to go ahead and show you plugging it in. Yeah, you notice there's no connector, there's no tab on this card like, most standard cards. And the way I've got this connector in there, obviously the card's a little unwieldy, but I've got enough room to slide it in, and there's the IDE LED cable is plugged in. You can get, obviously just any IDE cable or an adapter, depending on the type of CompactFlash adapter you're using. I'm just really using this one for a test. And also I meant to mention earlier, I've only tested a few different kinds of flash cards, mostly SanDisk and Lexar cards are what I have. They seem to have all worked fairly well. I do recommend, after you format your drive, just go ahead and run fdisk/mbr to make sure the boot sector's set up. Some of the boot sectors on these flash cards act a little strangely, and I find that it doesn't really hurt to do that. It may not work in some cases because the flash cards have the boot sector written or locked, like the SanDisks do. Fortunately, the SanDisks go ahead and boot, but just be aware, I haven't tested this with every card in the universe, and some cards may or may not work, but so far I have definitely used Lexar, kind of older ones, and older SanDisks, and they've been working just fine. And here I'm going to go ahead and plug this guy in down here. It's tough to do one-handed, but now you can see it's actually in the slot in there with the card, and I'm going to go ahead and turn this guy on. Let's see, the machine's booting up now. So right now I have a DOS 5 disk, and you can see it actually came up and recognized. Oh, hang on, let me start here. Came up, recognized no hard drives internally, and then the program just opened up and it found the flash card. And if you see at the top there, it actually throws a message at the top. And to boot off the A drive, you have to push A. So right now I'm booting off the floppy. I have a DOS 5 installation disk in, so it's actually trying to install right now. But I'll go ahead and cancel the installation here in a moment and just run Fdisk. And there it is. Step 3 to exit, and then press enter. Oh, wait. Yeah, there we go. Alright, so now I'll just run Fdisk. Camera. Doesn't like to go through. There we go. Okay. So anyway, I'm going to go ahead and display partition information. As you can see, there's nothing on here. Let's press escape. I'm going to create a DOS partition. I create the primary. I'm going to create the maximum size for the partition. Okay, so that's done now, so the machine's going to go ahead and restart. And it's coming up. Remember, you want to boot off the floppy, you got to push A. It starts booting up off the floppy. So now the DOS installation is going to start again. I'll push F8 and see if I can cancel it. That wasn't quick enough. Okay, F3. Now I'm going to go ahead and just format C:/S. And that's going to go ahead and format the C drive and put the system on it. You sure? Yes. And now it's formatting. As you can see, it actually formats pretty quickly. And the other thing I wanted to show is that the LED is lighting up. It's hard to see right now, but it's lighting up dimly. But when you're accessing it here in a minute, it'll work a little better. Okay. Format complete. And I'll just call it C_Flash. Okay. Now if I go to C, do a directory. Yep. C drive, I'll do a directory, and now you're just going to see command.com on there because it's formatted. But now I'll go ahead and I'll restart one more time. And now the machine will actually go ahead and boot off that flash card. So see, the internal drive's not seeing anything. BIOS came up, it sees that. It actually installed that as the C drive. Now it says booting C, and now it's asking me the time and date. And I do dir. There it is. You see the drive is C_Flash. It just formatted. About 2 gigs free. It's a 2 gig flash card, so everything worked fine. So anyway, the other thing, like I was saying, to do is I'll just go ahead and run this. It's still on the A drive. Fdisk/MBR. I've had to do this on a couple of different cards just to get the boot record happy. As you can see, this appears to do nothing. But really what it's doing is on every hard drive, there's actually a copy of what's called the master boot record, which is what tells the card how to start up, or the hard drive how to start up the operating system. And for whatever reason, the compact flash cards seem to have problems with the master boot record. Hard drives generally don't have this problem, but you know, again, this is just something I've run into. Maybe you won't, but you can see, you know, now that I restart again, let's reboot one more time. Even with that Fdisk MBR, it didn't hurt anything. So there it is. No drives. Found the card. Nothing on the slave. And then booting C. Time date. So there we go. Back to the C prompt. C:_Flash. Alright everyone, I'm going to have these up on eBay. I'm just selling, like I said, the card by itself. It seems to work in quite a few machines, although I can't guarantee it'll work in everything, and I can't guarantee it'll work with every flash card or even hard drive out there. Go ahead and be sure to check out that lowtech.co.uk page, and I'll put the link in this video at the bottom so you can go and check them out. A lot of cool stuff on his site and a lot of good projects, and you know, I certainly appreciate him selling and making those boards available. I know a lot of people out there can't solder them together themselves, so I went ahead and decided I'd make some available, and actually I'm going to use some to get some of my old vintage XT machines going. Just keep having a lot of problems getting, you know, those old ST225s and ST238s and ST238Rs and 251s, all those old MFM and RLL hard drives to even work any longer. So, you know, this is a good alternative for those older machines that you just simply can't get to boot with a hard drive anymore. And I must have 15 or 20 of those old drives, and not one of them will work, you know, properly very well. I've got a couple that'll boot, but after a few minutes you'll hit some bad spot on the disk and you're done. So anyway, hope this helps, and feel free. I'll have a couple of these going in the next couple of weeks. I'm still putting them together, but I've got a couple of them ready, so I wanted to go ahead and make this video and get them out there. Thanks YouTube, thanks eBay. See you everyone. Bye.